traditionally, Mark, talk to me about how you guys used to preach to building systems.
Yeah, so, and this is still very much true. You can still do this, and it's something that I have taught for many years, is taking a 2-week productivity log process. Every 30 minutes or so, go through the process of writing down, what am I doing at this moment? Don't judge it. Don't have to go into too much detail, but identify what is the thing that I'm doing. And you do that for 2 weeks, both you, your team, your assistant, each person. And then you get an idea of things that you're repeating in your business, some of the things that you're doing every day, maybe not realizing it. Sometimes you are realizing it, but it gets to a point where you can now see those things that you're doing. You can then take each of those ideas, those concepts and things that you're doing, write them on a sticky note, and then put them on a wall of some sort, and identify, okay, what are the things I'm doing for my leads? Any kind of lead process I'm putting in there, any kind of listing process of things, and sticking them, these little sticky notes on the wall to kind of give yourself a graph of what you're doing. And there's lots of technology ways of doing that. That's probably the most simple way of doing it, least technology way, and it gives you the opportunity to kind of go and move things around on the wall and do the building of the concept of these routines or processes in a very low-tech way. The advantage of that is you can see what those processes are. You can see where the bottlenecks are, where am I being held up at a certain point? Am I not getting enough information either from my client or from one of my vendors? How can I improve that process? Is it an extra email? Is it an extra phone call? All these different things you can start thinking about whenever you're going through this process. And then once you, for the bigger workflows that we've always taught, then you start going in and you start putting all these activities in this one big giant workflow. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that we've kind of come to realize is that process, while it's important to understand what you do for those 2 weeks, and we still need to capture that and do that, seeing everything in one big workflow can be extremely overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So the idea of a routine, where you do small things and you're building out small things, is a much better way of doing it.
That's right. And so that's where Sam comes in, right? We have the technology, and so this is how we can leverage AI-driven systems. So tools like Sam oftentimes can identify systems that are hidden right in front of you, right? And how I do that inside of Sam is I've narrowed down these routines into specific actions that occur. We call these important dates. So, for example, maybe a new lead comes in, and when they get added into your system, that important date can trigger the routine to happen. Well, now we only need to think about what is a world-class client experience going to be when that new lead comes in. And I don't have to think about, okay, well, I'm taking them through here and then sending it to here, and then I've got to do this and I've got to do that. It simplifies it. And I think it personally makes it much easier to kind of fathom, right?
It's like eating an elephant. Mm-hmm. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's how the routines are set up, so that you just build the routine based off of key dates of things, entry date, contract date, different things like that. That what is it that I want to do whenever I get a certain piece of information, and identifying when do I receive it. Once I receive it, or once I get some bit of information, that information then becomes the key date of receiving, that becomes the key date for the routine. Mm-hmm. And then it can progress through. So now you don't have to map out the entire workflow. You just have to map out, what do I want to do whenever I get this one thing?
Mm-hmm. And the really neat thing about using tools like Sam is they're always on. You can set it, and then the AI system is going to run, and it can even trigger other systems, other routines to run. So perhaps an important date gets triggered when a new lead comes in. It's going to run that new lead routine, but then maybe that at some point turns into a customer. Well, the customer date gets filled in, and now that routine can run. So you have the power to run these 24/7. They're always on, and they're personalized to you. And this is one of the coolest things
that's what so excites me about what you're doing.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into this tomorrow. So this is just a little sprinkle for you guys, but essentially Sam can utilize AI to understand personal information and details about the people that you're putting into your system. And so it empowers you to build better relationships. But then historically, we've been putting this information in our CRMs anyways. It's just not being used. And so that was something that my previous employer just kind of ground my gears. Is there's all this information. It's a fountain of wealth, and none of it's being used. It's just being hoarded or housed in these systems. And so Sam can use this. It can personalize communications. It can customize interactions. It can translate into different languages. And it's going to make sure that it sounds personal. And we're going to do it a couple of different ways. And that's what we're going to be diving into today.